A pivotal trip to Washington for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The White House says that tomorrow's scheduled visit comes at a critical time in Ukraine's fight against the Russian invasion. Support in Congress is split, meaning that urgent military aid that Ukraine desperately needs is tied up in the politics of Capitol Hill. Republicans want to pair any additional Ukraine aid packages with broader changes to the U.S. immigration system, something that Democrats have been unwilling to do at this stage of negotiations. Zelensky is set to make his pitch, meeting with senators, House Speaker Mike Johnson, and President Biden on Tuesday. And with just days remaining to negotiate before Congress leaves for the holiday recess, time for Zelensky is running out. Joining us now is Washington Post columnist Josh Rogin. Josh, thanks so much for being with us this afternoon. Let's start with the stakes here for Zelensky. What does it mean for Ukraine if they don't get aid from the United States soon? And then what does it mean for the United States in the broader context?
Right. Well, Boris, it seems pretty clear based on my sources that Congress is most likely to leave town at the end of this week without passing additional funding for Ukraine. Over the weekend, according to my sources, there's been no movement between the Republicans and Democrats who are negotiating these border policies and Republicans are maintaining their position that they're of demanding policies that the Biden administration can't agree to. What that means is that Zelensky is coming to town and he's walking into a buzzsaw. He's basically coming here to be essentially rejected. The most likely scenario is that he's going to meet with all of these people, go on TV with President Biden, and leave empty-handed, which is really the worst case scenario if you think about it, because then he's got to go back to Kyiv and explain to people why the help is not coming. And the consequences and the stakes could not be higher for the Ukrainians who are facing a cold winter, a barrage of Russian missiles and bombs that will target their energy infrastructure to leave their people freezing without electricity or heat, and no salaries to pay the doctors, no ammunition for the air defense systems. And this all plays directly into Vladimir Putin's hands. But at this point, I don't really think that there's a very high chance that that's going to be avoided, at least not avoided by anything that Zelensky is going to be able to tell Senate Republicans tomorrow.
So, Josh, let's dig into the objections from Republicans. They argue that the Biden administration doesn't have a clear end game for Ukraine. They also argue that there's vast corruption and not enough accounting of where every dollar in Ukraine aid actually goes. Are those valid concerns?
Right. Well, I'd say there's two different types of Republicans making those concerns. There are those Republicans that are making those concerns in good faith, and then there are those Republicans who are making those concerns in bad faith. In other words, the concerns themselves are valid, but that doesn't mean that Republicans are willing to negotiate to a position where they can allay those concerns. And it certainly doesn't mean that anything that the Biden administration or President Zelensky could tell people like Speaker Johnson is going to convince them magically that all of a sudden everything's okay. So yes, there's corruption. And yes, there's a lot of money going out the door, and it's hard to keep track of it all. But to be honest, I don't think the Biden administration, there's anything that they could say to a lot of these Republicans that's going to change their mind at all. So I think what's about to happen is that they're going to make their best attempt to answer these concerns by saying what we already know, which is that the war is over when the Ukrainians decide they've taken back enough territory that they can negotiate from a position of strength, and that they're increasing the oversight of the money, but it's not perfect because it's a war. And again, I think that for those Republicans who want to be, convinced that that everything is terrible, that's the message that they're going to draw. And there's really no magic words that Zelensky is going to say to Speaker Johnson that's going to make him think, oh, okay, I feel much better now.
So, Josh, if Ukraine aid is a non-starter on Capitol Hill, what options does the Biden administration have, perhaps unilaterally or through allies in Europe, to get Ukraine some measure of aid?
Right. Well, I wrote a column for the Washington Post saying that the Biden administration has several things that it can still do in its power to get them as much aid as possible with the money and time they have left. But it's a very bleak picture. And, there's no doubt that Ukrainian leaders are expecting that if the United States pulls its aid, that Europe will soon follow suit. And there's no doubt that it's a matter of weeks, maybe a couple of months before they'll run out of the critical things they need to defend themselves, and then a lot more people will die and the Russian forces will advance. So, I think we're out of time, really. I think the Ukrainians are out of options. I think the Biden administration is out of levers that they can pull to make this thing A-okay. And, there's really only two choices here. Either we're going to give them the money they need to survive and keep fighting and defending themselves, or we're not. And most of that power lies in the hands of Speaker Johnson, the Senate Republicans, and it's not looking good, Boris. It's not looking good at all.
Josh Rogin, always appreciate the perspective.